Hi, my name is Clint Medeiros, and tonight we're going to be talking about evaluating formal and informal, culturally responsive, and accessible assessments. First of all, what is an assessment? We must have a full understanding of what an assessment is and the different types of assessment. An assessment is an integral part of instruction, and it determines whether or not the goals of education are being met. Assessments affect decisions about grades, placement, advancement, instructional needs, curriculum, and in some cases, funding. It's the way in which we test our students, not only in the classroom, but throughout life. An assessment can be summative, which is something that sums up. It's the end assessment, something that shows growth over a period of time. Formative assessment involves the evaluation of student learning over the course of time. Its fundamental purpose is to estimate students' level of achievement in order to achieve student learning during the learning process. The typical type of formative assessment is a pretest with a post-test at the end, which would be summative. Continuing on with assessment, assessment refers to a related series of measures used to determine a complex attribute of an individual or group of individuals. This involves gathering and interpreting information about student level of attainment or learning goals. Four signs that I found of measuring improvement over time, of assessment, are measuring improvement over time, motivating students to study, evaluating the teaching methods, and ranking the students' capabilities in relation to the whole group evaluation. Those are four ways in which we can assess and look at data. A good test should possess not only validity and reliability, but also objectivity, objective baseness, comprehensiveness, discriminating power, practicability, and comparable, and also utility. Um, the process of collecting, reviewing, and using data for the purpose of improvement in the current performance is called assessment. A process of passing judgment on the basis of defined criteria and evidence is called evaluation. Next, we're going to move on to evaluation and how it plays a role in education and testing. The purpose of an evaluation is to judge the quality of a performance of work against a standard. How do I compare against the standard of the state? How do I compare in different ways? Evaluation means measuring or observing the process to judge it or to determine its value by comparing it to others of the same kind of a standard. Just a different way of saying the same thing. 5 parts of an evaluation: articulating the purpose of the educational system, identifying and collecting relevant information, having ideas that are valuable and useful to learners in their lives and professions, analyzing and interpreting information for learners, and classroom management or classroom decision making are all used based on evaluation. Next, we'll look at evaluation versus assessment and kind of the different ways that they're used. First of all, what is the purpose of assessment and evaluation? Assessment is to improve the quality of future performances, and evaluation is to determine the quality of the present performance. Who sets the criteria? The assessee and the assessor, the client, with possible consultation with the evaluator. When can feedback occur? With an assessment, it's during or after a performance. With an evaluation, it's during or after a performance. On what is feedback based? Assessment can be observations and the strongest and weakest points. An evaluation level of quality based on a set standard. Continuing on, we're going to be working towards culturally responsive assessment practices. And what does this mean? We have to make assessment fit the language of the students in the community that we're teaching. We all need to look into our daily traditional assessments and discover ways that we include students in their cultural knowledge and scaffold their learning with the students already know. When we collaborate with other teachers, in addition to parents and students, we're in a better position to learn about cultural literacy practices of our students and more about their community. We must have a full understanding of what their community is, their culture, in order to give culturally responsive assessment. We need to put relationships at the center and provide the space for students to share their stories. We need to use students' personal experience to drive civic and community engagement. This can foster a sense of cultural belonging among all students, especially those with multicultural identities and are not traditionally honored and represented in the classroom. Next, we're looking at cultural validity. Language is one of the greatest keys to cultural validity and assessment. The way that we state questions makes it tough on kids. We have to know the culture in order to make the cultural validity of our tests meet the needs of our students. Nearly all assessments depend on language in some way, and language differs among students, are associated with differences in the ways they construe the language of an assessment, question, or task. Just the way we phrase a question can make it tough on students. In order to allow these students to have quality testing, we need to phrase the words to meet the needs of these students. When this does not take place, it causes ineffective assessment. Some examples of ineffective assessment include inadequate sampling of material being tested, indirect rather than direct observation of what a student is truly learning, too narrow a scope of knowledge, not enough exceptions made for regionalism or cultural differences within a state, too many lasting inferences about the students taking the test that are based on very little merit, too much emphasis on a punishment mentality, not enough on what we can be improved. No accounting or socioeconomic or disadvantaged barriers that hinder a teacher's potential. Some examples of ineffective assessment. Next is, how exactly does leadership affect assessment and ways that leadership can improve assessment? First thing, as a school leader, we need to support and evaluate and develop quality teachers, whether that be through professional development, hiring better teachers, teachers that fit the mold of our school and our community. We need to use goal setting, assessment, and accountability to set our standards where we want them. Our teachers need to be held accountable as well as the students. We need to use strategic financial and human resource management, which means our money needs to be spent where it can help our students the most and the quickest and the most number of our students. We need to collaborate with other schools, see what works for them. I'm a person who steals stuff from wherever I can, pieces and parts, and make it fit what we do and make it work for us. We need to set directions for the school and the students. We need to have a clear vision for what we want it to be. We need to develop people to have a shared vision. What I mean by that is that we need to all be working towards the same goal, which is student learning and driving that student learning. Redesigning the organization to meet the needs of all students. There's not one way to do it. It's more than one way to skin a cat, and we need to do what is best for all of our students. A little bit more on school leadership. There's an increasing evidence that with each individual school, school leaders can contribute to improve student learning by shaping the conditions and climate in which teaching and learning occur. We as school leaders can set the tone and the culture for our students and what is expected of them through our teachers, through hard work, and sharing that one vision to where we're going to go. Looking at our Pueblo County School District 70, we have no district policies regarding ethical testing. All students take the state mandated tests. We have no guidelines other than at our school we're asked and advised to use formative, intermediate, and summative assessment for each unit. What I mean by that is in a formative assessment, we give a pretest, we assess intermediately throughout, and then we get a summative assessment at the end when we have things that we didn't get across to students through the assessment. We can go back and reteach. We use this to drive instruction. We can pace ourselves based on this. We are also allowed and encouraged to use different test formats because of our one-to-one technology. Each student has a MacBook, and we use Google Forms, we use paper tests, lots of different ways to assess, making videos, stuff like that. But our district really has no guidelines when it comes to assessment. All right, designs and implementation strategies for improving the impact of academic and non-academic practices. First of all, academic. We want to use a variety of delivery methods, whether it be standing up and teaching, whether it be videos, whatever the method may be. We want to use a variety of different methods to deliver our information. Find ways information correlates to the culture. How can we connect this to something within our school and community's culture? Allow for critical thinking activities. This can expand knowledge of students when they're allowed to think critically. Allow students different ways to show knowledge. It doesn't have to be a written test. Like I said, there's lots of different ways to show that knowledge and the knowledge that they've gained. Some non-academic ones, we want to build relationships through non-academic activities. This could be through clubs, activities, school-based activities, whatever the kids are into. Involve parents and community members when building curriculum and lesson plans. Make it fit our students. Everything needs to be for a reason. Here are the first page of resources, page 2, and the last page. I appreciate your time. Have a good night.